Team, welcome to Grand Rapids. I'm so excited to have you guys here. Why don't you guys come on in and meet my family? Vamos. I want you guys to meet my husband, Zach.
Hi, I'm Zach. I want to introduce you to our ridiculously large and awesome family. Come on in.
Wanna see Jesus lifted high, a banner that flies across this land. I'm in my tea, the truth, and know He is the way to heaven.
We got married 21 years ago.
Oh, yep, almost
2002.
Yep.
A date that I firmly remember.
Yeah.
And I'm not good with dates.
Yep, we made that clear right away.
Yeah.
Zach was actually in seminary, so we were both on the leadership team for the youth group at this point, both in college, prepping for the retreat for the next day. The whole core team was there, and kind of one by one, everybody else left eventually at 11 o'clock at night, just Zach and I. And so Zach and I are there trying to set up these million Christmas lights, and I'm trying to make small talk. And so I'm like, how's seminary going, Zach? And Zach says, I don't know, there's a girl. And so then, like, nosy me, I was like, oh, a girl. And so then I'm trying to like get out of him like who it is, and I spent pretty much the whole retreat trying to get the scoop and figure out who the girl was.
And then, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
It was her.
And then that evening, Zach said, yeah, it was you. And he asked me if I would pray about dating. We always wanted to have Christ at the center of everything that we did. And so we were super intentional about putting the Lord first and really praying and discerning about marriage together.
We would meet each other in the morning for a daily mass at the local parish. It was a Franciscan parish at the time.
Yeah.
And we would go to adoration. And so Jesus was a huge part of that process, of that courtship process. And still today, that's the foundation of the marriage that we have. That's the most critical part.
There we each wanted to have a big family, and that was a question that you asked me early on, and that was part of our discernment that this was God's will for us.
Do you remember the wedding day at St. Anthony's?
Yeah, it was very simple, beautiful. We had all of our friends and family. We had the reception in the gym, decorated it ourselves. We wanted the sacrament to be the focus. And so the reception was a lot more simple, and we really focused on a lot of our preparation on the beauty that we wanted in the Mass. And Zach and I stepped away to bring a bouquet of flowers to Our Lady. And in that way, really inviting her into our relationship. So, knowing that we wanted to have a big family, we didn't waste any time.
This is Trinity Rose. She's my oldest daughter. She's amazing. She excels at just about everything she does, but more importantly, she's got a servant's heart. She just served 2 years on the NET team, going all over the nation, helping out youth. She's amazing.
I graduated high school and then I went off to be a missionary, and that meant that I was traveling all around the US, and I really missed my siblings. So we'd go to a house, we'd visit a family, and they'd have a bunch of little kids, and like my immediate response was like to go play with the kids because I was so used to it, like having had so many younger siblings growing up, and yeah, it was really hard being separated from my family for that time. But then I realized how much I missed being part of something bigger.
This is our second oldest, Isabel. She likes to paint and she writes, and she's also an avid reader. Hi.
I honestly love the loudness, and sometimes you need it, but I love the noise. It's just really, for me, it's really peaceful to have so many siblings. It brings me a sense of joy. It's just the best. I don't know how to describe it in the best way. You'd have to try to find out.
Ooh, what are we making?
Blueberry muffins.
This is our third oldest, Veronica. Veronica's really active in the theater and she's our resident baker.
Hi. A bunch of siblings with all these different personalities, and I just get to enjoy it all.
This is Gabriel Michael. He's a quick adventure buddy when we do fun things, and more importantly, he is a solid man of God.
Great having a big family just because I can go hang out with one, just chill and watch movies with, or hang out, read a book, give them all my problems, or they can help me in my faith life. Having siblings is just great.
This is Serafina. She's our fifth child. Serafina really loves to build Legos and she likes to play outdoors too.
This is Kateria Quinn. She's actually named after Saint Kitaria, who is a warrior princess, and she lives up to that name. She's one of our adventurous child that likes to go out and explore and do all kinds of fun things.
But when I'm around with my siblings, it's more fun, or with my dogs, and it's really fun. And I really like having a big family.
This guy right here is Athanasius Joseph. His middle name comes from St. John Paul II, and he is another kid that has zero fear. This is Zelly Trez.
Zelly is named after two of our favorite saints, Saint Zelly Martin and her daughter Saint Trez. I grew up in a single parent family with just one sister. And my mom had this incredible way of just being really resourceful with what we did have. And my mom herself kind of had a reconversion, and it really was Mary who reached out to her as a mother and touched her heart and encouraged my mom to come back to church. And so my mom had us baptized when I was in second grade, and of course that year received my first communion. That was really the first time in my life that I was attending church regularly. Youth group is really where I began to really develop a relationship with Christ, and that was where I met Zach, and that relationship with the Lord really became the basis of our marriage and our family.
My family, my extended family, was broken. My parents both grew up in a very challenging environment, and they used our Catholic faith to build a much better home for them. By the grace of God, I've always taken my faith very, very seriously. It's a critical part of my life.
So we started out our dating relationship very intentionally going to daily mass, and we set up for ourselves certain rules that we knew were going to keep us out of sin as we were discerning marriage together. And eventually we just sort of started to get lax with our rules, and little by little letting go of these things that we knew were very important. And eventually that gave space for sin. And we actually ended up getting pregnant right before we got married. And when we found out we were pregnant, we met with our priest who we were doing our marriage prep with to discern together, pray with him to just really make sure that this was still what the Lord wanted. Of course, went to confession and just brought this to the Lord. Is marriage still what the Lord is calling us to? And discerned with our priest that yes, it was, and
rekindled our faith life at that point and
We
started
did.
going back to
Yeah.
the sacraments and the things that
Yeah.
made it so good in the beginning.
recommitted ourselves to all of the rules, daily mass.
We were worried too that it was going to cause quite a bit of scandal
Yeah.
in the church community that we were a part of, and so we actually moved 2 hours away because we didn't want to create scandal in the community that we were part of. That was a hard time to move a couple hours away,
Yeah.
not know anybody, brand new baby. Yeah, it was a challenge.
Yeah, it definitely caused a lot of difficulty and some struggles that we wouldn't have had to go through had we just stuck with the things that we set up in the beginning that we knew or what the Lord wanted
The
for
good news
us.
is God did take that and made things beautiful.
We learned the power of confession and forgiveness, and that's something that time and time again, as we've gone through other struggles within our marriage, confession is something, the grace of that sacrament. We needed to always put our marriage first in our family. Our marriage comes even before our kids, and that actually has a really, thank you, solid foundation.
We have a lot of date nights.
We do.
We do. We go out and kids will actually encourage us too when they see we're stressed or
Yeah.
having a hard time. Like, you need to go on a date with mom.
Yep.
And then we do.
Zach and I were really friends long before, we were dating or anything else, and that's been the thing that really sustains us throughout all of this. Having each other as a sounding board, being able to talk through the problems that we're dealing with, the things that we're facing, or new opportunities that we have, and just being able to face those things together. And with our kids, we really encourage the same thing. That really is part of our Wendt family culture, is this idea of thinking really big and thinking outside of the box. Faith is something that is really just a living, breathing part of our family culture. And so more than just, prayer before meals and these set kind of prayers, is we just try to weave that into everything that we do.
We're blessed to have a parish right down the road from us, and so we'll go to Mass frequently throughout the week, which is a huge blessing. We love cooking is one of the key ingredients for a joyfully big family. Family dinner has been a big blessing. Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, amen. Coming together, no technology, and just eating together. And we cook the meal together, right? And then the kids take turns cooking some really fun meals. Big families are absolutely amazing. It's chaos. It's total chaos, but it's fun. There's never a dull moment. There's
that's
always something
absolutely
cool
true.
happening.
There's always something going on
I guarantee there's a fire somewhere.
somewhere
right now.
in this house right now. Somebody is painting on something that should not be painted.
Right. That's a good life.
Yeah. Like a lot of families, I think we've had our ups and downs, and for us, throughout our marriage, we've gone through really 7 miscarriages, and we went through one particularly tough time where there was a span of about 11 months, 3 miscarriages right in a row, one right after the other. And each of those losses were more difficult medically, more complicated, and of course, each time it was just emotionally more and more difficult. And the result of that was this really deep depression. It was really postpartum depression, and I didn't recognize that that's what it was at the time, but I just felt so empty and so angry, really, at the Lord for allowing this to happen. And at this point, we had been so busy with life that we had allowed our relationship with the Lord to kind of get put on the back burner. And so when this season of suffering hit, we were both really ill-equipped to handle it and kind of ended up grieving in two separate directions. In our grief and depression and just separate ways of handling the stress, we just grew further and further apart. And I got to the point where the only honest prayer that I could really make was, Lord, I belong to you. I don't understand what you're doing. I don't like what you're doing. None of this makes any sense, but I belong to you and I'm not going anywhere. And that simple I belong to you prayer was the only honest prayer that I had for about 18 months. And through this time, I began feeling this call back to praying the daily rosary, and that call got stronger and stronger. And then the Lord began to show up with some signal graces. I found a rosary prayer card in my locked car that I hadn't seen before. My toddler found my confirmation rosary and just handed it to me randomly one day. I thought we lost it in a move. I hadn't seen it in years. And I had other people who weren't even Catholic just hand me rosaries out of the blue. Like, I was cleaning my grandma's desk and I thought, you should have this. And so I got to the point where I couldn't deny what the Lord was asking me anymore. In my mind's eye, I flopped all of these excuses down onto the altar and kind of spun on my heel and marched out of the church, not even waiting for a response. And in his faithfulness and his goodness, within a week of that very snarky prayer, the Lord answered every single one of those excuses. So I began to be able to pray in the quiet moments of my day. And it was a slow process of healing my heart, and the Lord really, Our Lady really, came into this darkness of my depression to come rescue me.
I decided to distance myself from God because of the pain that we were going through with the miscarriages. Each time, it was farther along, like there was hope that we were gonna have this child, and then it was taken away. And instead of having authentic prayer with God and just letting him know how angry I was, I just turned my back on him. I started to pour myself into my work. I had a real estate team. We're making a lot of money. I needed God, but I was using money as a way to fill that pain. I also started drinking, and I'd completely neglected my wife and my family. It was one of the darkest times, if not the darkest time in my life. And I would see my wife pray the rosary, and I'd see her start to count those beads there. Like I could see like this woman of God coming back to the faith, and it convicted me. It hurt my heart to see her do that, and why am I not joining her? I'm supposed to be the man, I'm supposed to be leading the family, and I'm just drinking and acting like a fool. So part of the grace that we got from this time of suffering was this faithfulness to the rosary that really brought our family back together. And then there was a calling that my wife received to start promoting the prayer of the rosary to other people. And she built this amazing business, Choose Life, where their mission is to equip Catholics with rosaries for life and get them to pray the rosary too and see the same results that our family saw, like from the pits of despair to back to life. A fun life, a big life. If it wasn't for our faith, we would have definitely gotten divorced. We would have been separated, and it would have been a lot darker for sure. But it was our faith and Mary working through all of that to really build something awesome.
Zach also had his own reconversion, and it was his leading our family in a family rosary that really helped our entire family to heal after those losses.
There's a program called Exodus 90 that my wife had been actually telling me about for months, and I somehow ignored her on it. And one of my friends sent me the description of Exodus 9. You know, you got to take cold showers, and there's fasting, and you got to pray for an hour a day, and you got to do all these things. I'm like, man, this sounds awesome. This sounds difficult. And we really take it seriously. And those disciplines, bringing that prayer in, that fraternity, these hard things really helped transform everything. And it transformed my business too. And so I got into real estate coaching. Well, and that's where I found my real passion, and I should say the purpose that God wants me to be walking on. And so I started seeking out people that really wanted to put their dent in the universe, do something really good with their business. So sure, we're gonna build this big business, but then how are we gonna impact our community? God has called both my wife and I to help other people, especially Catholics, grow businesses so they can live these big lives, so they can have food with their meals if they decide to have a ridiculous amount of children like we do. It is kind of fun though. One of the struggles with having so many kids is making sure I spend quality time with them. We do have date nights where my wife and I will bring out an individual one, but 8 children is a lot. And so there is a struggle that I have to make sure that I'm present there in the way that they need. My wife and I, you know, there's gifts that my wife has that I completely don't. My wife can be there emotionally and help them out. There's a logical part that I like to lend myself more to, but the circumstances, like when we have both of us together, they really help resolve the problems that we see. We really have the influence from the world. You look at the different media that is absolutely everywhere. It's a completely different message than what we're trying to get across to our kids. So one of the bigger struggles is the media. The other thing too is that there's a lot of families out there that don't take their faith very seriously. And so when my kids interact with these other kids, you know, they see a completely different story. And so that's definitely one of the bigger struggles that we have. When the family is run as God intends, it is a light to the world. When my kids go into a restaurant and they behave wonderfully and people see that, we get comments all the time. That's a result of our faith. That's a result of us living our faith, being respectful for one another, but they see us pray before meals, you know, when we're in public. The family, when run properly, is a place that allows children to be incubated in a good way, to become amazing adults. It is the foundational piece of our society. God has a very distinct plan for each and every one of us. And be open to the Spirit. You know, He's calling right now. Ask about that plan. Who do you want me to be, God? And then push the fear aside and become that person. That's the journey with We Choose All.
We've really embraced that with our kids, with our family, and taught that to our kids. And the Lord has really led us to a lot of big things, different things than some families, and it's just led to
some pretty miraculous things.
It's been pretty
amazing
awesome.
Things.
We are the Wendt family! And we're yours on the day!
Problems, worries, sadness. Are you seeking solutions?
Bible says,
Do not be anxious about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Choose faith over fear.